Millions of American jobs start right here.
America's farmers export over $100 billion of crops and products.
We have the #1 trade surplus of any American industry.
It's as true today
as it has been for generations.
America's farmers grow America.
Brought to you on behalf of America's farmers by Monsanto.
Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Can you start by telling us about your district and the types of agriculture in it?
Yeah, well, farming and agriculture are critical to the Hudson Valley. There are at least 1,500 family farms in my district. In Orange County alone, it's about a $100 million industry. So it is the lifeblood of the Hudson Valley.
What are your specific goals for specialty crop producers in the Farm Bill?
Well, there's a number of things we really need to do. One, we need to reform the crop insurance program because it's not working for our guys. You know, our farms are smaller, usually under 200 acres, family owned. The crop insurance programs, like a lot of the federal agricultural policy, has been written for somebody else. It's been written for the big guys in the Midwest, the big crop producers, not us. So what I've done is I've written into the Farm Bill, and I'm very optimistic it's going to become law. It's passed out of the committee. A bill called the Crop Act that would reform the crop insurance program to get better research and better funding for the types of policies we need for our specialty crops. That'll make a big difference for our farmers. In addition, in the Farm Bill, we got a special provision just for us directing the Secretary of Agriculture to use all the authority he has to mitigate flood damage in the Black Dirt region and the Wallkill River in Orange County. That's critically important because a lot of our guys are still not back on their feet after Hurricane Irene. So there are specific things we can do. I also would like to reform the H-2A program so our farmers can get the workers they need without becoming criminals or having to spend all night doing paperwork at the kitchen table. The current system's broken. It's a mess. Chris Gibson and I have a bill to fix it. So there are a bunch of things we need to do. We need to have better access to markets. We need to have better prices for our dairy farmers, and there's a very good provision in the Farm Bill to help our dairy farmers. I think this Farm Bill is going to be a big win for the Hudson Valley, and I think we're going to get it done.
Can you talk a little more specifically on your goals for immigration reform and what is in your bill that you've worked on with Mr. Gibson?
Well, the number one thing is we have to make the H-2A program work better. I'd like to see it be streamlined, get rid of a lot of the red tape. I'd like to see the guys be able to stay longer. I don't think you ought to have to do the same paperwork every year. I think it ought to be simpler for the farmers. There are things we can do to just be smart about it and to cut down on all the work and to make sure that folks get the work they need and can play by the rules. And so that's basically the idea. And then more broadly, you know, we've got to secure the border and we've got to verify the workforce. But we need special rules for agriculture because it's a different sector than other areas of the economy. But I think we can have comprehensive immigration reform so that we can get folks out of the shadows, get them paying taxes, contributing to the economy. So I'd like to see us do both this year.
Another issue farmers usually face is regulatory hurdles from Washington. What are you doing to address those problems?
Well, if what you mean is all the things I'm talking about with getting the workers they need, I'm all for cutting the red tape and cleaning it up. If what you mean is the things where farmers can't donate part of their land into land trusts for conservation efforts, you know, I've got a bill with Chris Gibson to streamline that so that they can do it without a cash contribution and maybe get a tax credit, a tax deduction, for making that kind of donation so we can preserve farmland if we're not using it. So there are areas where we can make things just simpler. I'd like to see us take food stamp dollars at green markets in New York City to a much greater extent. Most of the produce being sold in New York City at the green markets is from my district. It's from Orange County and from the Hudson Valley. So we need to make sure that the food stamp dollars can purchase that produce by making those dollars work at green markets. So there's things like that where we don't have to spend any more money if we just get smart about how we do the things we're already doing. And on the disaster preparedness stuff, you know, a stitch in time saves nine. And if we do the work we ought to do on the Wallkill River and elsewhere, we'll prevent future damage and future crop loss. And that's the smartest investment we can make.
Do you have specific goals regarding infrastructure and transportation issues in your district?
I absolutely do, and I'm lucky enough to be on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and I'm on the subcommittees that deal with the most important stuff, the highways, the airports, and the water resources. I'd like to see us make massive investments in American infrastructure, and we don't need to do it all with the government's money or the taxpayers' money. We can leverage private capital as well. In the short term, the Tappan Zee Bridge project is absolutely critical for our region. and I'm working with the governor to make sure we get the federal help we need. But there's a lot more to do. We need to invest in our roads and our bridges and our airports and on our electrical grids. I'd like to see better broadband coverage in rural areas. There's a lot we can do, but we've got to start investing in infrastructure again.
Do you think the Farm Bill is properly addressing broadband issues for rural areas?
Well, I think the question is how you do it and where you do it. In my district, we have pretty good coverage. If you look a little bit further north, the coverage isn't as good. And but I think some of the programs in the stimulus weren't as smart as they could be. So I think how you do it is important. But it needs to happen, because you're not going to have folks in rural communities fully engaged in the economy until they have all the access they need to broadband. And the broadband companies can do a better job of providing the service, even if the federal government doesn't do anything else. So we've got to work together with the private sector to make sure that rural communities have access to the internet and the resources they need. Otherwise they're never going to be able to compete with the rest of America.
Congressman, can you tell us a little bit about your background before you started serving in Congress?
Well, sure. I had the opportunity to work for 3 years with Bill Clinton and the White House senior staff. I ran a business for 3 years. I worked in the governor's office for a couple of years. So I've done both the public and the private sector. I've trained as a lawyer, and I've practiced on and off for 20 years as well. And I think it's important that people know both. I think we've got too many people who think the government can't do anything, and I think we've got too many people who think that the government should do everything. I'm neither. I'm somebody who thinks the private sector is going to create wealth, our farm sector is going to create wealth, but the government has to be a good partner, and we've got to have good policies. Sometimes it's just getting the government the heck out of the way, but in area after area, I'd like to see government stop being part of the problem and start being part of the solution, and particularly with rural families, so that kids can stay on the farm, farmers can make a living, and they don't have to spend all their time dealing with red tape and bureaucrats, and can get back to what they do best, which is, create the best produce, the best dairy products, the best specialty crops you're going to find anywhere.
Has your term so far met your expectations?
Well, it's been great, and I've got a lot of work I want to do, so we're just getting started. But I'm very encouraged that in the first 3 months we've been able to move a farm bill out of committee. A lot of us said we are going to get results. We are going to stop fighting and bickering. And the last Congress, the Tea Party Congress, broke down, couldn't get a farm bill. A bunch of us came to Congress this year and said, we're not going to do that. We're going to work together. And if you look at the Agriculture Committee, it really was a bipartisan effort. And people worked together across the aisle, and we've got a bill out of the committee now. And that's exciting. And that's going to mean thousands of jobs are going to be created in the Hudson Valley. We've got a huge agricultural sector that is really dependent on good policies down here. So to be able to do that in the first 3-4 months is very exciting. We've got to get it done on the House floor and signed by the President, but I think you'll see it done this year.
Congressman, is there anything else you want our viewers to know about your goals or about your expectations for Congress this term?
Well, I want them to know that we're here to serve them, and we are, taxpayers, you pay the bills, and we're here to work for you. So I've got an office in Newburgh, but you can reach us on my website at seanmaloney.house.gov. And you can call our office and you can get help with any of the problems you might have with the federal government. We held a town hall meeting in Orange County, had a couple hundred farmers come out. We'll do more of those. We're doing a telephone town hall tonight. So it's very important to me to hear from my constituents and to know what they think. A lot of the ideas we heard about in our town hall out in Warwick are the very ideas I'm working on in the Farm Bill right now. The Crop Act, the H-2A reform I mentioned, flooding mitigation in Orange County. All of those ideas came from farmers, not from me. So I need to hear people's ideas, and I need to know what we can do to help. And I've got a 2-year contract, and I intend to make the most of it.
Congressman Maloney, thank you.
Thank you very much.